Hi, it's Stu, and in this video, I'm going to present my travel TBR. So I'm taking a trip, and it's not a long trip, but they'll be traveling nonetheless. And during the traveling time, I'll have a lot of opportunity while waiting and while traveling to read. Whilst at the destination, I will probably have less time, but I want to make space for, in case I'm waiting, in case I get to break away to a coffee shop, or if the weather permits, a nice park. I wanted to have some books ready in case of that. I also am really excited, although I'm working out how many physical books I want to take. However many I do, I'm really excited to exchange those at little free libraries in the city that I'm traveling to. So I'm looking forward to other aspects besides the bookish ones on this upcoming travel. But indeed, the purpose of this video is to help me get excited and a little inquisitive about the books that I chose. So it was actually hard to choose. I went through several sort of scenarios, and one was to pick little paperbacks, right? Because when traveling, that seems right. However, for some reason, I landed on choosing books that are part of a series. So it turns out that on my shelf, I had a little pile of books that are parts of series. I'm not one that is bothered even starting in the middle of a series. And I'm also not one that's really into series. Don't get me wrong, I want to stay, open-minded. And in fact, if I really enjoy any of these books, open to me is getting the next or the one before, especially of the series, from my local library, or even being more conscious that, that is a choice I would make if I encounter one of the other books in a series in a little free library. All of these books were hauled through little free libraries, with the exception of one I did get at a thrift store. And so the intention is that they will go back to little free libraries, either in the city where I live, if I decide to leave the physical copies here, or at least some of the physical copies here, and or very excitingly in the city where I'm traveling. In any case, let's do the books with this caveat. There likely won't be a review of these books. I will probably unhaul as I'll be traveling as soon as they're done. However that looks if I take the physical copy. So because I'm not doing any editing and putting the little book, cover to keep it interesting for my very few viewers and or myself in the future, and also because I'm traveling and I'm not thinking necessarily about making videos while traveling. I'm just thinking about traveling and reading as part of the experience. Then these will get on hold without probably any reading review. Maybe I'll make a short mention of it when I return, but maybe they won't get reviewed. In any case, that was just a little, I guess, disclaimer to myself that I don't have to feel any kind of way about holding on to these physical copies for a little bit. I'll just unhaul. Here's the stack of books, and I will go through them. So the first book, which I might get to even before travel, like, and that's where it's fitting in my mind, but I might not too. And that is Plainsong by Kent Haruf. And this is part one of a series. Apparently this book went over very well and he wrote more. This book takes place in the plains, in small town plains of Colorado. And it follows sort of families who have some tribulations in their lives. And this book was published in 1999. So I imagine for myself, as I came from the plains of the Rocky Mountains myself in a very rural area, and came up or was coming of age in the 1990s, I think that I might find some relatability to this book. But it is also plays into part of the reason it's a little less interesting for me compared to some of the other books that I'm going to talk about. This book is literary fiction, and maybe that's why too when you see what's coming next in my stack. But in any case, Plain Song, that is probably the first book I'm going to read, but I'm actually not worried about the order that I read these books in either. My travel book, which in Libby I have only in audio, which makes sense. I really like this physical copy, and I really like both the font and the color and the texture of the pages in this physical copy. So I am excited to be holding on to and experiencing this physical copy while waiting or while while traveling, and then will happily, if lights have to be dimmed or something like this, just listen to the audio as well. So this is The Siberian Dilemma. And this is like book number 8 in a series of this particular crime. So I'll say a detective, but this crime solver. And in this one, we're following him into Siberia. He's looking for a friend, maybe on and off girlfriend, who's a journalist who's gone missing. And that's kind of the scenario. So this is thriller mystery. And its publication date is a whole 10 years after Plain Song. It's 2019. So this is indeed my travel book. Next, we have a book that when someone who I'm going to visit while on this trip was visiting me, they noticed this book on my shelf. This person is not a reader, and in fact was someone who said, "You get out of town." Like, listening to an audiobook is not the same as reading. And it was really interesting for me to have a conversation with someone who isn't bookish at all, who doesn't exist in the realm of literature, who has read a couple of books, while in high school and can still talk about them. But other than that, doesn't engage in anything bookish, especially book talk. And, for me to say, that's really interesting. So what do you think reading is? Like, decoding word, like, explain to me from your very novice, which I say very novice. I just explain to me from your someone who doesn't engage in this, in reading very much, why listening to a book, the work of an author, to you doesn't denote actually reading. Like, what's your definition of reading? And it was actually a really decent conversation. I appreciated it. There wasn't a whole, because this person doesn't engage in bookishness, there wasn't a whole lot of posturing or there was an opportunity to sort of really get into the assumptions that people make about what's the difference between, like, decoding words on a page into a language that you understand, and or understanding plot, setting, and other literary tools, etc. The reading experience, right? In any case, I'm hoping, because I have the audio version of this, to try to engage this person in this book a little bit just with the audio, but maybe even just with this book. This person is not a reader, as I said, and I'm always accepting of anyone's choice of entertainment, but because reading enriches my life so much, I also really try to encourage it. So this will be the book that I try out with this person to try to get them engaged with me a little bit, if not just in a conversation while I'm reading it about, okay, here's what's fun and great about this book. This is a historical mystery, right? It's taking place in ancient Ionia. There's, obviously some, I think this series is, I think it's called, well, it has to do with ancient Greece. Maybe it's the Athenian or the ancient Greece. And I think that it integrates part of ancient Greece, ancient Greek history, and or ancient Persian history into this lovely little mystery. And this book, which was published in 2011. Yeah. So keeping on the thread of ancient Greece, and now delving into fantasy and mythology. Yay, love. The last book, and this will be my travel back book, likely. I had to put it on hold because Percy Jackson's book, the Percy Jackson Anything series are so popular. So this will be my travel home book. It is middle grade and it is fantasy. So and Greek mythology, for what that says to me is fun, fun, fun. Probably really, really tired traveling back. So this could be something that's just fun. And I might not even get to it. I have to take the physical copy if I'm deciding to, because the digital one is on hold, as I said. But this is just, we know that reading isn't all about aesthetics, right? That there's so much more important things than aesthetics. However, when we are talking about the physical copies of books rather than the digital or audio, aesthetics is such an important part of the experience with a physical copy of a book. So in keeping with that in my mind, this aesthetically is just such a gorgeous book. And it's my most recent release, 2024. So as soon as I read this, I actually feel bad for having it on my shelf. As long as I have, I definitely will unhaul it to friends who have children who are reading Percy Jackson middle grade books, and or there's a couple little free libraries that I know of that really, like, when we put these middle grade books in, they go quickly. So this is probably the book I'm most excited to read, my middle grade fantasy. And the final book, it's book 2 of the series, the Senior Year Adventures. In the final book in my TBR, 4 is quite zealous, so I might not get to all of them. I might decide to unhaul without reading any of the physical copy and just keep the digital to bump into my next week's TBR, and or I might just let them go, given that they're all parts of series. And maybe somebody's out there looking for the first, second, or whatever book in a series that they love. So yeah, that's my my traveling bookish TBR.